Most business failures are not caused by bad decisions. They are caused by reasonable decisions made under pressure. At the time, they feel logical, responsible, even smart. In this video, I'll explain why good decisions often lead to bad outcomes in business. Hi and welcome. Before we begin, I'm curious, where are you watching this video from? You can let me know in the comments. I really enjoy reading them. Now let's talk about today's topic. When people look back at failed businesses, they often assume that someone made a bad decision. That assumption feels comforting. It suggests that failure happens because of incompetence, carelessness, or lack of intelligence. But in reality, many of the decisions that later caused damage felt reasonable at the time they were made. They were based on the information available, they responded to real pressure, and they often aim to protect the business. This is what makes business decisions difficult. They are not made in calm environments. They are made under constraint. There are deadlines, expectations, limited resources, and incomplete information. In these conditions, the goal is rarely to make the perfect decision. The goal is to make a decision that feels survivable. Smart people optimize for relief. They choose options that reduce immediate tension. They favor solutions that buy time. They avoid choices that introduce visible risk right now. From the inside, these decisions feel responsible. They keep things moving. They prevent disruption. They maintain confidence. But what feels responsible in the short term can quietly weaken the system over time. Each decision solves a local problem, but it may create a structural one. And because the outcome is delayed, the connection is rarely noticed. This is why failure is so often misunderstood. Not because people didn't think carefully, but because they were thinking within a system that rewarded short-term stability over long-term resilience. The decision felt right. It just wasn't designed for what came later. Pressure quietly reshapes how decisions are evaluated. Under normal conditions, a decision can be examined. Alternatives can be discussed. Consequences can be weighed. But when pressure increases, that process compresses. Time feels shorter, options feel fewer, and uncertainty feels more dangerous. In these conditions, the definition of a smart decision changes. A smart decision is no longer the one that produces the best outcome. It becomes the one that avoids immediate pain. Pressure rewards decisions that reduce visible tension, that keep things stable, that prevent disruption right now. Long-term risks feel abstract. Short-term threats feel urgent. This creates a consistent pattern. People choose options that preserve momentum. They delay decisions that might slow things down. They avoid choices that could trigger doubt or resistance. None of this feels reckless. In fact, it feels careful. Careful to protect confidence. Careful to maintain trust. Careful to avoid panic. But pressure narrows perspective. It pushes attention toward the present and away from the future. What matters most is getting through today. And when many decisions are made this way, the system begins to change shape. Not suddenly, not dramatically, quietly. Decisions that felt reasonable in isolation start interacting in unexpected ways. Each one solves a local problem. Together they create a larger one. And because the pressure never fully disappears, there is rarely a moment where everything feels calm enough to reassess the direction. This is how pressure transforms well-intentioned decision-making into something fragile. Not because people stop thinking, but because pressure changed what thinking was allowed to focus on. Most business decisions involve trade-offs. But the most important trade-offs are rarely visible at the moment a decision is made. They do not appear as clear choices, they appear as side effects. A decision might reduce cost but increase dependency. It might protect short term stability but reduce flexibility. It might preserve confidence but weaken feedback. These consequences are not ignored intentionally. They are simply not felt right away. Human judgment is shaped by immediacy. What is visible now feels more real than what might happen later. So decisions are optimized for what can be seen, measured, and justified in the moment. Trade-offs that affect the future remain abstract. They do not trigger emotional response. They do not create urgency. They do not demand attention. This is why many decisions feel balanced while quietly shifting the system. A shortcut saves time. A compromise reduces tension. A delay avoids conflict. Each choice solves something concrete, but each one also narrows the system slightly. Options are removed, paths close, dependencies increase. None of this feels dramatic. In fact, it often feels efficient. Only later, when conditions change, do these trade-offs become visible. What once felt like flexibility now feels like constraint. What once felt like safety now feels like limitation. And by then, the decision itself is rarely questioned. The situation is blamed. The market is blamed. Timing is blamed. The trade-off remains invisible. This is how smart decisions quietly reshape a business. Not by obvious mistakes, but by accumulating choices that felt reasonable, useful, and even necessary at the time they were made. One of the most difficult aspects of business decisions is that consequences rarely arrive on time. They are delayed. A decision is made today. The system adjusts quietly. Nothing breaks, nothing feels wrong. Weeks pass, months pass, sometimes years pass. During that time, new decisions are made, new assumptions are formed, new explanations are created. By the time consequences finally appear, the original decision is no longer top of mind. It feels distant, disconnected, almost irrelevant. This delay breaks the feedback loop. People respond to what they can see. They adjust to what feels current. They explain outcomes using the most recent events. The past quietly disappears from the narrative. When a problem surfaces, it is blamed on timing, on market conditions, on unexpected change. Rarely on a decision made long ago under very different circumstances. This is why accountability becomes blurred. Not because people are avoiding responsibility, but because the system makes causality hard to trace. Multiple decisions overlap. Effects compound. Signals arrive late and incomplete. By the time the damage is visible, there is no clear moment to point to. No obvious mistake. No single wrong choice. Just a situation that feels suddenly unmanageable. And because the connection is unclear, the same decision patterns often repeat. New solutions are applied using the same thinking that created the problem in the first place. The business reacts to outcomes, not to causes. This is how intelligent organizations find themselves surprised by results that were quietly forming for a very long time. At this point, many people inside the business feel responsible, but no longer in control. They are accountable for results, but disconnected from the system that produces them. Expectations remain high, pressure continues, but influence becomes fragmented. No single decision feels decisive anymore. Responsibility is spread across roles, teams, and processes. Everyone owns a piece of the outcome, but no one fully owns the system. This creates a quiet tension. People feel the weight of responsibility, but lack the authority to slow things down, to change direction, or to question assumptions openly. Decisions become incremental, Small adjustments, temporary fixes, careful compromises. Each one feels reasonable. Each one avoids confrontation. Each one keeps the machine running. But together they deepen the problem. People stop asking whether the system still makes sense. They start asking how to survive within it. Responsibility shifts from shaping outcomes to managing exposure, from improving structure to avoiding blame. This is when organizations become trapped, not by bad intentions, but by roles that limit action. People continue making decisions not because they believe they are right, but because not deciding feels worse. Doing something feels safer than admitting uncertainty, and so the system continues forward, guided less by understanding and more by obligation. From the outside, this looks like discipline. From the inside, it feels like exhaustion. And because everyone is trying to be responsible, no one feels able to stop and question the direction anymore. When businesses look back at failure, they often search for intent. Who wanted this? Who caused it? Who made the wrong call? But outcomes are rarely the result of intent. They are the result of systems. Most people inside a failing business were trying to do the right thing. They were responding to pressure. They were protecting stability. They were trying to keep things working. Each decision made sense from the position it was made in. Each choice felt responsible. Each action felt justified. But systems do not respond to intent. They respond to interaction. They respond to how decisions combine, how trade-offs accumulate, and how pressure shapes behavior over time. This is why good intentions can still produce damaging outcomes. Not because people were careless, but because a system rewarded short-term relief over long-term resilience. Healthy organizations understand this difference. They separate intent from outcome. They examine structure, not just decisions. They ask not only, was this reasonable at the time? But also, what does this decision teach the system to repeat? When that question is asked consistently, failure becomes less surprising. Not because mistakes disappear, but because they are noticed earlier. Understanding this changes how responsibility is defined. It shifts focus away from blame and toward awareness. And when awareness is restored, decisions regain their power. Not because they are smarter, but because they are made within a system that can learn from them. That is why smart decisions can still lead to bad outcomes, and why changing the system matters more than judging the people inside it. If you found this explanation helpful, you can subscribe for more videos like this. If the video added value, a like is always appreciated, and if it didn't, you can dislike it. I'll survive. Thanks for watching.